Okay, we're in the sugyas of Tumah V'Taira. Again, the end of the Masechta, the last few blot deals with Tumah V'Taira. We spoke about the Milas de Rabbanon of Tumah V'Taira, starting off with the lowest being Chulin, the highest being Mechatos. Today we're going to have two distinct sugyas. The first one is what's the status of Chulin Shenas Al Taras HaKodesh. Now, it's interestingly enough, we know to be Nisav Tumah V'Taira, you have to have Gedorim. You have to have in fact, the Kahanim who were Nisav Tumah V'Taira lived alone. Shol wiped out no Ir Kahanim. They lived alone because they had to be more diligent when it came to Tumah V'Taira because they ate Truma, they ate Kachim. And if you eat Truma B'Tumah, you chai Mitzvah Shemayim. Well, no, actually, Karis. I think Karis. Mitzvah Shemayim is for Zar, for a Kohen, it might be Karis, I'm not sure. But again, you chai Misa for sure if you eat it, the Tumah. You know, and so it's very, very careful. So the Chacham made a lot of Gedorim. Now, people's Kahanim, particularly, some of them would treat all their chulin, all their food, like either truma or kachim. They would treat it either way. And like this, if all their food was, even their regular food was treated a certain way, which chulin you don't have to worry about. You can eat tamid chulin. As a result, you wouldn't have a problem when it comes to kachim. So that's called chulin shenaso taras hakodesh. Let's see. It's the last Rashi on Yutes Amid Beis. Last Rashi Yutes Amid Beis. Shenasu al taras hakodesh. Adam aroga lechol kachim. A person who was accustomed to eating kachim, the kabbalah love, he makes a kabbalah lechol chulin b'tayra, to eat chulin b'tayra hakodesh. Kadeshu b'nei beisoy zihirim ubekim b'taras hakodesh. In order that b'nei beisoy should be zahir and careful ubekim in taras hakodesh. They should be careful in that. So therefore, it was that was the Hagdara. So the Gemara is going to make a diak that we know that from our Mishnah that chulin shenaso that a person treats like kachim as a din of kachim, meaning it'll be metama to the level 3 to make a 4 and paisel by level 4, as opposed to treating it like truma, which would pass a level 3. Right? Again, the difference between truma and kachim, the difference is the capacity to go ahead and transmit the tumah beyond level number 3. Hands are sheni. Sheni touches truma, it passes the truma, meaning truma now you can't eat it. But the truma, if it touched something else, would not transmit tuma. Pasel means the buck stops here, but your tame. Tame means mitama would mean by kachim. If the hands or shnias would touch kachim, it'll be mitama the kachim. What does that mean? It has the level 3, the capacity to make a level 4 to transmit it once more. These are yisaydis in kachim. These yisaydis in kachim. So now says the Gemara. Amar Rav Mari, Shmamina. We hear from our Mishnah, and we're going to see how from our Mishnah. Chulin shenasu al taras hakodesh k'kodesh nami. Chulin that you treat as taras hakodesh is k'kodesh nami. Mimai. How do you know that? Midaloi katani behu maila. When we didn't go ahead and learn it as one of the milas in the Mishnah. In other words, in the Mishnah we could have said. We said big day ama oretz is tamei leprushim. Big day kahanim is tamei to the next level. And we didn't say big day what the begodim of a person who's nizar to eat is kachim al taras hakodesh. We didn't include it, so it must be like kodesh. Fred Gemara v'dilma haid like katani behu milo. The reason we didn't consider it among the milas, the stringencies of the rabbanans. Why? Because it's not necessary. Memanushach. The idami litruma, hatani truma. If you're going to say you treat your kachim al taras hakodesh as a din of truma, so you learned the mile of truma in our Mishnah. The idami lechulin, and if it's similar to chulin, hatani lechulin, then you learned chulin. The Tanya, chulin shenasu al taras hakodesh, harihen kechulin. Chulin that's treated al taras hakodesh as a din of chulin, meaning it can only go to the level of being a sheni. You can go one more level to Ravi. So maybe it's like chulin, maybe it's like truma, but it's not like kachim. Again, you want to take it to the utmost level, guys. You want to take it to the utmost level. What's the utmost level? That you're treating the chulin that has a din of kachim, that it can go ahead and be makabel tuma up to the level of 4. Maybe no. Maybe it's chulin, or maybe we have machlokes. One person says it's chulin. You may treat it like kachim, but it's chulin. In other words, A duck is a duck. Chulin, chulin. You can't go ahead. Well, no, I'll only go to the level of truma that it go be matama of sheni to shlishi and stop there, but not that it'll be kachim. So therefore, that's not a raya. That's not a raya. So Rabbi Elazar said the Gaimer Elami Seifa. Where do you see it? From the Seifa of a Mishnah. Yosef ben Yoyezer, Haya Chassid Shebekahuna. Yosef ben Yoyezer was mamish a chassid. He was pious. Vayimit Bachtoi, and his shawl, some type of garment, was midras l'kodesh. In other words, that he's like the level of truma. It's a midras. It's tamei. It has the capacity of matama kodesh. So it must be he's the level of truma, right? And Yochanan and Gugada haya oichel al tyrus kodesh kol yamav. Rabbi Yochanan, the latter part of the Mishnah, Yochanan and Gugada, he ate his chulin al tyrus kodesh kol yamav. Bachtoi midras lechatas, and his garment was considered tumas midras vis-a-vis the mechatos. Mashma lechatos in only mechatos lekodesh loy lekodesh not. Alma ksavachul shnas altaris kodesh is kodesh tami. Let's go back to the Mishnah, guys. I'll show you in the Mishnah. Let's go back to the Mishnah on Yuches Amid Beis. In this Mishnah, you're going to hear that we treat chulin shenasu altaris kodesh like kachim. Where do you hear it from? The last din of the Mishnah. We see where it says Gemara up to 3 lines. Yochanan begada, he haya oichel ataris kodesh, meaning he ate all his chulin, everything, and he treated it like kachim. Good. Kol yamav v'hoisa mitbachtoi, and we considered his clothing midras tamei vis-a-vis lechatos, which is the 5th level. That shows you what level are we going to give it. A 4, that has the capacity of matama of 5. So that's your raya that chulin shenasu al tyrus kodesh, that it can be matama to the level of 5. You must treat it like a 4.
Why is that a raya? It's a yach. You're saying it's universal that because he treated it on his level, so therefore everybody.
Haya oichel al tyrus kodesh. That's the raya from the Mishnah. That kol yamav, because you don't have a raya. You don't have a raya from fakert. So we throughout Shas, we have machlekes and throughout Shas. What do we want to do? Shmami enough from our Mishnah. Do you hear from a person in our Mishnah that's the din? Yeah. That was our mission. You have a Gemara. Rabbi Elazar Tzaddik says it's like truma, and Rabbi Yosef, and we have and the Tanakhama says it's like chulin. We have a machlekes. But shmami enough from our Mishnah that it's kaddish, and that you do hear from our Mishnah. I don't understand your point.
No, I'm saying because he was at the level, so he considers everybody considered his.
But again, that's it's machlekes. We just wanted to prove from our Mishnah. We just wanted to prove from our Mishnah. We have a raya from our Mishnah that he treated like Torah. I'll tell you something a very unbelievable great pshat, guys. This Gemara is very abstract to you, but this Gemara answers a very, very, very difficult question. It's mamish a difficult question for those people who learn Chumash. In Parshas Vayera, right, comes along the Malachim, and they tell Avram Avinu that Avram thinks they're what? Thinks that they're guests. Avram runs, he goes to the tent, he goes to Sarah, Lushi Vasi Ugois, go ahead and knead. It gives him 3 saw flour, knead. Comes to go ahead and feed. It says he brings basa chema v'cholav v'basa asher asa. Does not bring what? Does not bring the food. Does not bring the bread. Says the Mefarshim, why? Because she was Pirsanida. Since she was Pirsanida, she was Matama de Chulin. Freg the Welt, and why was she skeptical when she was told she was going to have a child? If she was Pirsanida, obviously she can have children. It's a bomb kasha, guys. No, it's a bomb kasha. It's a bomb. If she was Pirsanida that day, so why was she? So Taisus has a derech that she always was Pirsanida, but she never had a child anyway, so it was no big spritz. That's Taisus derech. Says the Marsha, based upon our Gemara, guys, Avram Avinu, he was niza to treat his chulin al tyrus truma. He was, in other words, he treated all his chulin like it's truma. Now, halacha is, if a woman's Pirsanida, she's metama mafreya. Anything she touched, meis leis. Says Avram, not that she was Pirsanida. She wasn't Pirsanida. But Avram, once he found out she's going to have a child, Then he asked Bichaya, she will be pierced in Nida, and retroactively, anything she touched will be Tamid. That's the Marsha and Davav and Nida. So it's this concept, and he answers a bomb. It's a wonderful teretz, it's a lumdish teretz to answer a very difficult question. It's not that she was pierced in Nida, she wasn't, because that's what. But Avram knew that she would be since he was informed that you're going to have the child. And then Mela what? Then Mela he didn't serve it because if she's Nida, she's going to be Tama Beislace. That retroactively.
Even more than Abraham. Trusted them, believed that it happened.
Yeah, Avram, that's it.
Laser, just a slight question. How do you know when he served the food? Maybe he served it before they told him.
Right. You look in the parsha. Right. Well, it's
Okay.
true. You know what you're saying. What you're saying is true. What you're saying is true. Hashem told me. Yeah, he had information, but still, the malach. In other words, it could be. Then he wouldn't have had it made in the first place. There's a big kasha on that. Hashem told him at the end of Parshas Lech Lecha that Sarah was going to have a child, and then he went through the bris milah and didn't get a chance to tell her. So then, why would he tell him to make the bread in the first place? I know. No, it's a good terror. It's a good. You're saying good. The Chaim is saying that l'chayra she knew beforehand. May is asking maybe didn't tell yet, right? Hadn't know to enact it yet. So the Pasha answer, he knew she was going to have a child. If she knew she was going to have a child, so why did he give him in the first place that? Okay. Anyway, thank you for ruining a good piece of Torah. No, I don't know. It's a good kash in the Marsha, guys. It's a good kash in the Marsha. But again, using this concept to answer up is nice. Okay, very good. Okay. Before we begin the next Gemara. Okay, so now the Gemara, the next piece of Gemara is to understand it, fellas. This is all the Rabbanan. In other words, if something's tameh, you know it's tameh. But because of the severity of tumah v'taira, there's an inyan of not having hesach hadas. You can't. In other words, you have to have in zin all the time, from beginning to end. Kachim, you have to tyrus, you have to have in mind from beginning to end. The next sugya is the sugya of hesach hadas, that you remove your mind. And hesach hadas doesn't mean that you can even be there and be watching it, but you don't have in mind for one thing, and you're going to see it affect something else. It's fascinating sugya. It's schwer because it doesn't appear to be it doesn't appear to make a lot of sense, because as we're going to see, I'm watching it, and yet you can tell me it's tummy even though I'm watching it. And the Gemara is going to answer, well, you watched it for one thing, you didn't watch it for another thing, which is kind of a funny thing. But that's the thing of Hesach Hadas. And Rashi, we'll do the Rashi that kind of gives it as an introduction. So the introduction to the sugya is one of Hesach Hadas. So says the Gemara. Amar Rabbi Yonasan. We're going to have three opinions. We're going to have three opinions, and then we're going to have kashas on the last two, and then the first one. Amar Rabbi Yonasan ben Elazar. Says Rabbi Yonasan ben Elazar, Nafla me'afarasai himenu, right? If his afara, his shul falls from him, he says shul falls from him, and Amar l'chaveirai tenali, he says his friend, give it to me, pick it up and give it to me. V'nastala, and he gives it to him. Tameya, right? It's tamei. That's it. In other words, he goes ahead. It's tameya. Let's see Rashi. Tahar. Even if the person who gave it to him is tahar, guys, he's tahar, and what else? What's it talking about? Right? There's nothing to do with falling. It's tamei on his back. Elama, it fell. Even if you know the person that gave it to you is tahar, it's still tamei. Yeah. Even though you know the person that gave it to you is tahar. We're going to see the reason is the chazaka, a person doesn't watch what is in his friend. He's not watching him in his friend's hand. The person who gave it to him, because he wasn't watching it, since he said, give it to me, and he doesn't know my status, he doesn't care about tumah. As a result, since this one wasn't thinking about it and that one wasn't thinking about it because of their conflicting thoughts in their minds, Ulemachmirim b'tairis have a hesech hadas tuma. Ulemachmirim b'tairis, and those who are machmin tairis, hesech hadas is tuma.
Even if he didn't say give it to me, the guy gave it by himself without him saying give it to me. In other words, he dropped his shawl, the guy picks it up in his hand, he dropped it. That would be his
I wouldn't
advice.
think it makes a difference because if he was nisim to v'tayra, he'd say don't pick it up. If he's nisim to, if I'm nisim to v'tayra and I don't know your status, I would say don't pick it up.
He picked it up, it was like too fast.
Again, listen. No, I don't know the status of Hedgeshan Kelowitz. I don't know. But I'm nisim to v'tayra. I drop it on the ground. So my Amira, I don't know. I hear what you're asking in the Diak of the Gemara, but in Rashi, why would the Amira make a difference?
It seems that way.
But why I'm asking you, if the svara is that that's hesach hadas, that for, at one point in time no one's watching this, it may be, if I don't tell, it could be that in that case it would be tahar, because since I didn't tell you anything and my mind was on it, okay, I don't know. But the bottom line is the Indian of hesach hadas. So guys, very important to remember to keep cheshbon. So the first opinion is Reb Yosim and Elazar, and that's speaking about a falling shawl and a friend picking it up. Next, Rabbi Yonasan ben Amram says Rabbi Yonasan ben Amram, this chalfu loy kelim shel Shabbos, the kelim shel chol. You go to your closet, you nisav v'tayra. You want to wear your big day chayil. It's during the weekday, and lo and behold, you put on your big day Shabbos. V'lavshan, you put them on. Nidmo, ditame. Rabbi Elazar. Okay, so the second case is what of Shabbos clothing. Third case, Rabbi Elazar bar Tzadik. Maisa b'shtei nashim chaveros. There was two Maisa, right? Nashim, the wives of Chaverim, not Amaratzim. They were wives of Chaverim. Sheneschafu lehen kaleim bebeis hamerchatz. They went to the wash. They went to the mikvah. They went to the beis hamerchatz. They put their clothing. They hung them up, and they switched. So this case, guys, is similar case 1 or 2. Case 2, you had to switch from Shabbos to Chol, right? Chol to Shabbos. So case 2 and 3 are synonymous. It's important. Case 2 and 3 are synonymous because you're switching from one thing to something else. I thought it's Chol, it turned out to be Shabbos. I thought this is my beged, it turned out to be my chaver. The first case is it's the same beged. It's the same beged. So the case number 2 and 3 are similar. Good. Now, Uba Ma'aseh Rabbi Akiva, they came in front of Rabbi Akiva, V'timon, and Rabbi Akiva paskin that it's tamei. And Rabbi Akiva said it's tamei. That's what he paskin. He said it's tamei. Now, Maskev lo Rabbi Shaya, Elamiato. It's mashma from this Gemara. If guys, I have kavana for one thing and I end up with another thing, that's tamei, right? Elamiato. Hoishit yodai l'sal little paschitin. I want to take out wheat bread. For also biyodei pasoirin, and I take out barley bread. What are you going to tell me? Hachanami dinit mas. You're going to tell me it's tamei? Just like I stuck my hand in for what? For Shabbos chol. I took out Shabbos. Just like I stuck my hand out for my beged, and it turned out to be another person's beged. You're going to tell me over here, based upon that reasoning, that this you should be tamei, right? That it should be tamei. V'chi teima hachanami. And if you're going to say you're right, it is. You're going to say you're right, it is tamei. V'atanya. Hamishamer esachavius. Someone is watching a barrel. The cheska shel yayin, in the chazaka that it's wine. V'nimtza shel shemen, and you find out it's not wine, but it's oil. Tahara milatame, what? It's tahar from being mitame something else. So we see, guys, it's a good shmira. We see that when you think one thing and it turns out to be another thing, it's a good shmira. So therefore, I think it's one piece of bread and it's another piece of bread. It's a good shmira. And pashtus, kasha on the first. According to your reasoning, you still can't eat the shemen. Amai, why can't you eat the shemen? If it's a good shmira, you're saying, guys, all you said is the following. You said it's shomer to be matama something else, meaning, but it itself is tamei. Guys, again, it's puzzle, right? But it can't be matama. But it can't be matama something else. It's a good shmira for that. But it itself is puzzle. Amai. So Rabbi Yirmiyah, but you know, if you tell me it's a good shmira, then it should be tahar. Guys, 3 levels. Tahar, puzzle, tamei. Tahar, puzzle, tamei. 3 levels. Good. You're telling me it's puzzle. But if you tell me it's a good shmira, it should be tahar. Says the Gemara, I'll tell you. Ba'omer shimartia, I watched the barrel midava hamitama. I watch the barrel from something that can go ahead possibly and be metamid. Something that can make the oil of the wine into a rishon. Something that it can make a metama. V'loy midavar hapaisla. But I didn't watch it for something that would passel it. In other words, it's truma, let's say, and I didn't watch it from its full yom that can passel it. So I watched it from a level of something that would make it shomer to be metama something else, a rishon, which would make it a sheni, and a sheni can be metama by truma. But I didn't watch it for something that would passel it. So memela, the halacha is it's not tahar. Why is it not tahar? Because I didn't watch it vis-a-vis that level. I watched it vis-a-vis the level of tameh. I didn't watch it vis-a-vis the level of puzzle. So what do you see? It's possible to have conflicting levels of shmira, right? It's possible to have conflicting levels of shmira. So now we're asking a question on that. So again, let's go through so far what we got. We have three different opinions. We have a case of a shawl falling and a friend picking it up. We have a case of a person going ahead, switching his chol clothing for Shabbos clothing. And we have a case of two women going ahead and we want to say that it's tameh. We say it's not a good shmira. Fred the Gemara, what's it different than wine and yayin and shemen? You think you're watching one, it's not the other one, right? So, and that's good. So we asked the kasha on that. What was the kasha? If it's such a good shmira, then why is it puzzle? After the Gemara, of course, my shmira was halfway. It was shmira for tuma. It wasn't shmira for psul. The Gemara is questioning: do we see such a concept of shmira for psul? Guys, you good? Floater, good. Now,
How is that possible?
What?
You know, like just like the case, how can it be? How can you?
Yeah,
how
so
can the barrel become puzzle.
through a mashka through a rishon. A mashka could possibly go ahead and touch the liquid and make it a rishon.
That will be
Tameh, right. So you're watching for that. You're watching for tameh, but you're not watching for the full yom. It's full yom, right? That would be the mitzvahs.
But if it's full yom touched the barrel, it wouldn't be tameh.
No. But I guess the liquid is available. Right? You have to say the liquid's available, right?
So
Right.
you know what it is.
Right.
That's what I'm thinking. Then you know what it is. If it's
The
only
questions
way-
asked again. I can just line it up for you. They asked
Okay,
your,
I
your question,
understand.
and no, we'll see a Taisus in a second. Since you brought it up, we'll see a Taisus in a second. I don't want to get everyone lost. We'll get back to Taisus because he deals with the logistics. Okay.
Okay.
Now, is there such a thing as watching halfway? It says we're in. There is. For Tanya, here's the raya. Now, guys, you have a sal that's full of tainim. You have a basket, tainim, and there's the shovel to go ahead and split the tainim up. So there's three possible things to become tameh: the sal, the magrefa, which is the shovel, and the tainim themselves. Good. Now, besal. A person sticks his hand into a basket of figs. For he's carrying it on his shoulder. But magrefa b'tech sal, and the shovel that goes ahead is in the sal. For hoya beliboy ala sal, and his mind is to watch the sal. For hoya beliboy ala magrefa, and his mind wasn't on the magrefa. Hasal tahar, the sal is tahar. The magrefa tameya, and the magrefa is tameya. Hasal tahira. Okay, Fred the Gemara. If the sal is tahar, titma la magrefa l'sal. Let the magrefa be matama the sal. Let the magrefa be matama the sal. Says we're ain't kli matama kli. The kli itself is at most a rishon. It can't be matama another kli. Ulatama masha besal. Oh, if it's a rishon, it's still giving matama the tainim to make him a sheni. Says Ravina. Ba'omer he says shmi raslei midavashim matamo. I watched the magrefa. I watched the magrefa from something that be matama midava hapoislite. But I didn't watch it for something that would passel it. So what do you see? So it's possible to go ahead and divide it up. We call makom kasha. Bottom line is you have a kasha. So who's the kasha on, guys? On this latter two. On the latter two. On Yonatan ben Amram and on Elazar ben Tzaddik, who said, guys, a woman switching in a bathhouse or Shabbos clothing. So you see that that the shmira l'chayra, we have the case that it's a good shmira by what? By yayin, v'shemen. So to over there should be a good shmira, just because it's the different thing. It's not a kasha on the first case, because that was a totally different case. It's not a kasha on the rest of Elazar. We call makom kasha v'oid. Now, guys, we're going to ask another kasha, and this kasha is going to be a question on number one. So in other words, we're going to kill all of them. We're going to knock them all out, guys. Good. So this question is only number two and number three. And now we're going to ask a question back on number one. V'oid Maisif Rabba Baravua, Maisa Be'isha Achas, Shebol if they Rabbi Shmuel, V'amr loy. She told Rabbi Shmuel, Rebbe, Beged Se Araktiv B'Taira. I went ahead and we wove a beged. I was not a nida. I was not a nida. I wove a beged. I wasn't a nida. So when the beged became into existence, the shear of a beged is shalish ashalish, right? And shalish at spice, right? When it came into existence, it was what? It couldn't be tummy. But you know what? Even though I wasn't a nida, I wasn't thinking about watching it from that it should remain b'tayra. That's the chadas, right? Umitoich bedikos, says Rabbi Shmuel. I was checking out this woman. Rabbi Shmuel baitka amalai Rebbe. You know what? Nida mashcha imi bechevel. When I was pulling it on the loom, there was a woman and she was a nida. Now I thought what? I thought we're scot-free, because when we were pulling on the loom, l'chayra, it wasn't the share of a beged, but the
Roll itself? Roll.
the rope. So l'chayra, when we talk, so l'chayra, this was much in the chevel. Now maybe it was even after it was done. The bottom line is, she could be very careful in herself, but you have to, without hesach hadas, look what could happen. Okay, so l'chayra, guys, what do you see from here? Guys, this is the kasha. In other words, why was this beged tameh? Only because there was what? No shmira. What happens if there was shmira? It would be good. That's the kasha on everybody. Because in all those cases, there was shmira. The first kasha was only in the latter two. This kasha is on all of them, because even in the case where it fell in the dirt and they had to pick it up, there was shmira. There were eyes on this at all time. So you see from the case of Rabbi Shmuel, it's an inverse proof, guys. It's an inverse proof. The reason why it was tameh, because there wasn't a shmira. Had there been a shmira, it would have worked. And that's the kasha on Rabbi Yonis ben Elazar. Ein believable l'shamra tameh. Shuv ma'isa bisha acha shabal of Rabbi Shmuel. Amr le Rebbe, ma pazu araktia b'tayra v'leihoya believable l'shamra. Umitoich bedika shahisa Rabbi Shmuel boika Amr le Rebbe nima nifskali. There was a nima that was nifsak because shrasi bepeh. And you know what? She was what? You know what women do when they put thread? They put it in their mouth. So they put it in their mouth, and she was a nida at that time. And then she put it in the loom. And the lechus of a nida, the moisture of a nida, the saliva is an abatuma. Amr Rabbi Shmuel, kama gedola derech chachanim sha'imrim beliba l'shomer tar in beliba ein beliba l'shomer tamei. So guys, let's go over it. 3 cases. Case number 1, Rabbi Yonis ben Elazar, right? Case number 1, Rabbi Yonis ben Elazar, shawl falls in the ground, right? Your friend picks it up, it's tamei, hesach hadas. We're fragment. Why is that hesach hadas? There was shmira on this. Your eyeballs were on it, his eyeballs were on it. Why is it tamei? Where do you know shmira helps? The case of the nida. Said Rabbi Shmuel through Rabbi Dika, when there's a shmira on from other people, from a shmira on this, then it helps. So here we had a shmira. Question. That's question. Yonis ben Amram, who said that the Shabbos clothing. We have 2 questions. One from the case of what? Of Yayin and Shemin. We see case of Yayin and Shemin, what? That even though that they didn't know what he's watching, so too over here, even though you thought it was one clothing, it was other clothing. In addition, you see the kash from the last case, Shmira helps. You have the kash from Rabbi Shmuel. The third opinion of Elazar Tzaddik, 2 women switch clothing. You have, again, 2 kashas. One, the fact that what you see for Shem and Yayin helps the Shmira. Secondly, you have from over here, Rabbi Shmuel. So we have a kasha. So now we need 3 people who have to extricate themselves, right? Guys, you good? It's a hard Gemara, but to keep cheshbon, it's not bad, yeah? Good, great. Says the Gemara Vaita. So now, Bishlei Malaras Reb Tzaddik, guys. Reb Tzaddik was the 2 women switching clothing. Kolachas v'achas emeres, Chavei Rasi, Eishes Ama Oretz. My Chava was the wife of an Ama Oretz. U'moscha daitamina. There was hesach hadas. Boom. Forget. Once there's hesach hadas, that's not good shmira. Rabbi Yonis ben Amram, that was the case, guys, of the Shabbos clothing, right? Nami, even the kalim the Shabbos avalu shmir tfei, masach the time. In other words, you need an extra level of shmir for this clothing for Shabbos. The extra level of shmira. Your shmira was only the level of what of weekday. So that's considered hesach hadas. You understand? That's hesach hadas. No, but who's still the case of the guy of Rabbi Yonasan ben Elazar, right? Rabbi Yonasan ben Elazar, who's the case of what of the shawl falling in the dirt. Neved luhu shima biyadei dechavre. L'chayre he did shmira biyadei dechavre. So why is it what? Why is it tame? Guys, you good? Everyone's geschmack. Okay, I'm saying shtika kahida. Want to be tested on this tomorrow? No, back. Good. Rabbi Yonasan, Rabbi Yochanan, chazaka ein adam mishama masha biyad chavera. We have a chazaka, a person won't watch what's in the hand of his friend. Guys, once there's somebody else involved, that's hesach hadas. Two cooks, cold pot, right? Once you have somebody else involved, you're relying on them. That's hesach hadas. That's going back. Let's go back to the Rashi now. Let's go back to this Rashi. Yeah, let's go back. Well, you watch it all the time. Now, let's go back to that Rashi now. Tameya, Rashi, about where it gets parallel to him about 6 lines down. Tameya, I feel is that tar, even if the person who picked it up in the dirt is tar. Look, I'm mafarish time. I'm not watching it in Heshi's hand. The Gamzesh and even Heshi who gave it back to me, he wasn't watching it. The Meima Amai he says to himself, since he said give it to me, who any adeim in Tami Ani Imtar, he doesn't know what status I am. In other words, at that period of time, it's hesach hadas. Now you have a good shot, guys. Guys, very good shot, yeah? Again, this is a concept in Toma B'Tayra. Again, this is a big shot. This is a chumrah sheba chumras. Which one?
One person with the
Me with Heshi? Shabbos clothing. So the hesach hadas is your shmira was only in the level of watching chaldika clothing. It wasn't Shabbos clothing because that's needs in shmurs. There's hesach hadas vis-a-vis that extra level of shmira. That extra level of shmira you need. Right? This is all chedush. It's not chedush. It's not a svara. It's not a svara. Again, once you get the hesach hadas, where exactly in the sugya? This hesach hadas. Where did the hesach hadas take place? Where did it take place? So by the Isha in the mikveh was Ish's chaver, siftas. By Shabbos, it was called this. Over here, this night has the hesach hadas took place over here. Why? As soon as someone else picked it up, the guy who picked it up says, 1 second, he's been sonach upon me. That's it. Okay, very good. Says the Gemara from Loi. So now we're going to question that last idea, guys. We're going to question that last idea. The last idea that was something that's in the hands of your friend that it's not a good shmira. Iva Tanya. You have wagon drivers and workers, they're amaratzim. That amaratzim means what? They're not in this of a term of a tyra, right? They're carrying your tyrus. Let's say you have wines in a barrel, cheres, and they don't know, they can't touch what's inside. They can't touch what's inside, and the kli cheres is not matama from the outside. Okay, so now, even if they distance themselves from him more than a mil, his tyrus is tahar. Good. Why? Why should it be? The mashama, that's biyat chaveh, right? That's the kasha. And he says to them, "Lechu v'ani avoy, go and I'll come achreichem after you." Kimishin almu einav mehem. Right. As soon as he loses sight of them, tyrus of tameis. Good. So that's your kasha, guys. What's your kasha? Your kasha is what? How can you say that? What a person watches, a person doesn't watch what his hands is chaver. Obviously, over here you see a person does. No, not yet. Not Yayanessa. Not a shadow. These aren't goyim. These aren't goyim.
Yeah, but you're always afraid that he's going to come back, so you're not going to touch him.
Says the Gemara, Maishna Reisha, Maishna Seifa. In other words, guys, why in the Reisha is a good shmira? You're telling me in the Seifa it's not good shmira. In the Reisha it is a good shmira. So Rabbi Yitzchak Nafcha, Reisha b'mitar chamarav u'poilov. The Reisha is speaking where he was mitar them. It's chamarav poilov l'kach. In other words, there's nothing to watch for. Since they were tahar, in other words, what's your kasha? That person doesn't watch, right? There's nothing to watch. They're tahar. In other words, the case of where I didn't know what he was. That was the case of falling in the dirt. I don't know what the other guy was. Over here, what do you know? So that's the answer to the kasha. Yeah, everyone's tar. Everyone's tar. It's nothing much. It's very much. Ihachi, if everyone's tar, right? Ihachi, if everyone's tar, right? Seifa nami, right? Seifa nami. The seifa also should be tar, even when he says, "You go and I'll what and I'll follow." And for the Gemara, ein amaretz makbid al maga chaveroi. You know what? I might be tahar, but the amaretz is not going to be makbid on his friend. The amaretz will show up and touch it. Fred, what's the obvious question? Yachi Reisha Nami. So the Reisha also says, the Reisha, they're worried that he can come through an angle. He can come at an angle and get to them. In other words, there's a sphere of mirsis. Nichnasu Yaitza, like Kashas, right? Yeah. The sphere of mirsis. They're worried that Yachi Seifa Nami. Seifa also, would they be worried that that he's going to come and stop them? It says, since you go and I'll come after you, Mismach Samcha that Tayu, that Smicha stat that he's not going to show up, and therefore they're not makbid on their friend, and then you have to worry about Tumah. So Yetzim Devenu, just to go over our sugya, we began today. We said that from our Mishnah we can medayik the din that there's a din chulin shnas al taras hakodesh, the chulin is treated like kachim. We paskin from the last case, the case of Rabbi Yochanan ben Gudgada, that it's shmira visa, that it's only matama tameya. You go only to the one level up to level 5, so you see it's a level 4. Then we got into the sugya of Hesach Hadas. We had 3 different opinions, 3 different cases. We had a case of Rabbi Yonasson's case of Rabbi Yonason ben Elazar. There's 2 Rabbi Yonassons there. Yonason ben Elazar falling in the dirt. We had the case of Yonason ben Amram, a change of Shabbos clothing to regular clothing to Shabbos clothing, and Elazar ben Tzaddik, 2 women switching. Right? Why was that problem? L'chayra, there was the all tamei in each case. Why should it be tamei? There was a shmira there. So the Gemara answers that there's Hesach Hadas there. Where's the Hesach Hadas? The Hesach Hadas we answer one by one. Let's see, the Hesach Hadas in case number 3, the case by what? By the 2 women in the mikvah. One was Eish Samaretz. The case of what of Shabbos and Choyol. The Hesach Hadas was he watched only the level of Choyol, not the level of the Shabbos. And the case number 1, the Hesach Hadas was what? A person doesn't watch which is the hand of his friend. Why? Because he figured it'd be some of the other person. Okay, and that's all she wrote. So Be'ez Hashem, tomorrow we'll start a new parak. Very short daf tomorrow. That's why we're away, but I'm sure it's short but hard. Hajj Alecha in Darsham. Hajj Alecha in Darsham. Hajj Alecha.